Hi, okay, so this is Module 3, Activity 2. All right, articulation is the first one. That is how speech sounds are made. That's the way we shape our mouth to make those sounds come out. So, an example of a disorder in this sense would be not being able to make the R sound. Some kids tend to make the Y sound instead, like, or just leave the R sound out, like bud instead of bird. And then you might hear the F sound instead of the th sound, like when they say teeth instead of teeth. So that would be an articulation disorder. The next one is voice. That is how you use your breath to make the sound come out. And so many things can happen with that as far as the rate that your breath comes out or the way that your vocal cords are functioning. There can be a hoarseness in your voice that makes it difficult for people to hear you, like that. Or also, there's something called dysphonia, where there's pauses or not a consistency of the air coming out. Like spasmodic dysphonia demonstrates you talking, but then there will be a sporadic pause in the breath. So it's like you cut out and then come back in again. So you can be saying, hello, I'm, just like that. Like it just stopped for a second and then you come back. So those are mild cases. I think in severe cases, it can be repetitive and a lot more noticeable. But it's hard for me to demonstrate that or model that. The last one for the speech issues is fluency. And fluency demonstrates the rhythm of your speech, how it flows. And a couple of issues with that would be stuttering and decluttering. So stuttering is where you repeat the sounds over, or it will be one long sound, like you could say, or it can be a repetitive say, but it takes longer for that sound to start and end. And then cluttering would be more of you leaving parts of the word out so that, and then you combine the words together so that you sort of make up your own words by chopping off parts of it. Like if you were trying to say, please turn the television off, but you said, please turn the telev off, telev off. That would be a way to cut the end out. And if you did that on a regular basis with all of your sentences, it would be harder than to communicate what you're trying to say. Then we move on to the language disorders, which the speech disorders deal with the actual functioning of making that sound. And then the language disorders, they're more about how it's processed in your brain, how you perceive it, how you express it. There is I don't want to say mental side to it, because obviously producing the sound requires brain power too, but there's more of a comprehension that goes with it. So the expressive language problems, that is where you have trouble communicating your ideas and your feelings. What are you trying to say? It's hard for other people to understand what you're saying. You may leave words out. An example would be if you said, I ice cream but tomorrow. Okay, so that sentence could mean a whole lot of different things and you don't really know exactly what it means because there's some words that are left out. So it's trouble expressing yourself. Even though you can say the words correctly, the ideas aren't getting across, so to speak. On the flip side, then, there is the receptive language problems, which that's where you have trouble understanding what other people are saying. And this causes a big problem in school because on a daily basis, you're given directions, and if you don't know what those directions are, then chances are you're going to get either in trouble for not following directions, or you're not going to be able to complete the assignment because you can't follow the directions. So it's them actually struggling to understand what's being said. Um, and then the last one is a social language use disorder, or it's considered pragmatic problems because it's dealing with everyday language. It's basically where you don't really know the social norms of language. So this can fall into several different categories. It could be a misuse of an innocent word, but you've used it in a way that might be perceived as inappropriate or offensive to someone. Another situation would be knowing how to talk differently to different audiences. So if you're talking to, say, if you're 12 and you're talking to your friends, you're going to talk differently than if you were talking to a 1-year-old or if you were talking to your grandparents. So knowing the social norms that go with that. And the last one would be following conversation rules, such as like taking turns talking, not interrupting people when they're speaking, waiting your turn, and then you get to talk, those kind of things. Understanding how the whole process works. So those are the disorders. The last two that I talked about, the language disorders, are really, they have a mental aspect to them. So thanks.